The following story has been brought to you by StoriesToInspire.org.
You know, at the turn of the century, there was a town called Rudnik. And there was a child in the town who decided to accept upon himself to say Tikkun Chatzois, the special tefillah that is recited at midnight every night for the Churban Beis HaMikdash. The child was a child prodigy, and he was a child prodigy in Hergeshim as well, not only in learning, but in emotions. And next to the shul, there was an apikairos. There was a heretic who lived, and he had abandoned the community many years before. He had, unfortunately, many questions that had remained unanswered, and because of that, he abandoned his faith. He went through a lot of tsaris, and he blamed Hashem for his miserable life. Most of the people looked at this person with derision and contempt, and they didn't speak to him. They didn't know anything about his personal life or the intimate details of his personal life. And instead of him coming closer, he continued to drift further and further away from the Rabbi Shalom. One night, this man heard crying. He heard the crying coming from the shul, and the shul was quiet normally at this time of night. But he heard the crying. He was a neighbor, and even though he had not stepped inside of the shul for many years, he was curious, and he got up, and he went to go peek inside to see what was happening. And standing before the Aron Kodesh was this young man, and terrible, terrible tears came forth. But it wasn't tears of sadness. It seemed to be tears of yearning, tears of uplift, tears of devotion. And the man looked and listened closer, and then he listened into what the boy was saying. The boy didn't really see or know what was going on around him. And he said, Rabbi Shalom, forgive me for my sins. Help me better understand the Torah that I learn. And he was sobbing. And one more thing he said, Rabbi Shalom, there's a man who lives next door. And the man, Nebuch, doesn't believe in you. Don't let his heart be filled with bitterness and pain. Let him see the true light. Let him do tshuva. And when the troubled fellow heard the tears, he too broke down crying. And right there, he decided to change his ways and to be chayzer b'tshuva. That boy would grow up to become the great Kloisenberger Rebbe. The Kloisenberger Rebbe, whose tears, if you ever heard a tape of the Kloisenberger Rebbe daven, the tears that accompanied his davening, it's impossible to imagine that those tears would not be able to accomplish and to save any person who was bitzara. But the Kloisenberger Rebbe did not give up. He lost his wife and 11 children. Somehow, those tefillahs were not accepted. But instead, those tefillahs and those tears were channeled forth in a way where he built an entire kehillah over again. And kehillah in Netanya, kehillah in Union City, the Kloisenberger Rebbe was one of those who rebuilt Yiddishkeit. Tears don't go to waste. The Rabbi Shalom knows where to put them. Hopefully, Amir Hashem, a Yid never suffers. But if we're suffering and we're crying, know that your tears are always kept in the Rabbi Shalom's hidden flask.
Enjoyed this story? Come again. Bring a friend. StoriesToInspire.org